Alrighty, so every table group should have received a set of cards. There should be 9 in them.
Yeah, they have a
Can I
bunch of
give you?
events listed on them, and so we're going to give you 5 minutes to try to put the events in order. So, in your table group, get them in order.
Give them to me. I'll do it. Just hand them to me.
He just told you.
Yeah. Hand them to me. I can do this. Ready?
Oh, we're good.
I'm sorry if the yellow is hard to read.
You see them.
If and when you think you've got it, you can just raise your hand and look at us. So we know.
This is the beginning.
I'm gonna go in between you guys.
We will tell you the
And
end.
then this one, probably this one. And this. I think we have it.
Do you think so?
Probably not, but
Now, was this where you start?
Is that the start?
No.
yeah, you were one.
No. No, I'm no.
There. We'll go.
Actually, yeah, no, you're really far off.
Did we get it right?
My second line.
How do we use Cameron? Check ours.
Why did you?
Dude, I saw that some guy was born, so I started again.
You're pretty close. You're really, really close, I think.
You think?
Pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure.
I think it's this
Created that. It could be that one.
Oh, come on.
You're pretty
But
close.
this is. Muslims adopted the marriage custom.
These are just kind of facts.
Yeah.
Is the same color as the MasterCard?
Does it go like this?
Yeah, start here.
It's pretty close.
It is pretty close.
It's probably the closest.
Right.
We will go over the answers. So the first one was India was fragmented in 550.
Damn.
Oh.
So
We got that one.
Actually, I had that.
it was fragmented when the Gupta Empire fell and was conquered, and so even though they were fragmented, Indian culture still flourished and grew. And Buddhist and Hindu rulers built big temples and buildings and worship places during this time. So the next card was in the late 1100s was when Sultan Gur defeated the Hindu armies and made Delhi his capital. So this created the Sultanate, or a land that was ruled by a sultan, and so this marked the start of Muslim rule in India. And so the reason he was able to beat the Hindus in war was because his archers on horseback were more mobile than the Hindus' slow war elephants. And so a lot of the Hindu leaders spent a lot of their money and time fighting each other rather than teaming up to fight the Muslims. So then the next card, in 1206 to 1526, many people started converting to Islam because there wasn't a caste system. So a caste system is kind of like feudalism in that you were born into your role and Islam didn't really have as much of one as Hindu did. So, yeah.
Alrighty, so then after that, you should have had that India split again.
Oh.
Alrighty, so this dude, totally a jerk, his name was Tamerlane, and he invaded India, set a bunch of stuff on fire and killed a bunch of people, and he caused a split for India to again fragment into rival Muslim and Hindu states. So they kind of fought each other and didn't get along, like oil and water. And then after that, in the 1400s, that is when the Muslims started to adopt Hindu culture. So some of the things that the Muslims would adopt were the Hindu, like the wedding customs, the marriage customs, sorry, and some of the caste ideas in a very slight manner. And then they formed this sort of weird Sudu language called Urdu, which is a mix of Persian, Arabic?
Yeah.
I always say Arabic and Hindu. So these three languages combine to create this one other weird one. And then, it didn't say this necessarily, but I do believe that the Hindu probably also adopted ideas from the Muslims. So the Hindu were kind of extravagant, and they like to have big parties and really fancy things to do, and like all these jewels and decorations and that sort of thing. But I think as the Muslims started to adopt and get a little more out there, because originally they were really conservative, I think the Hindus probably also started to get a little more conservative, and instead of throwing jewels in your face, kind of just invited you to come along with them. Then, the next thing you should have had was that in 1526 to 1857, Babur created the Mughal dynasty. So, the Mughal dynasty, Mughal is just another way of saying Mongol, or Mongolian. And this was a big deal because his empire was really, really huge. It stretched all the way from the Himalaya mountains to the Deccan Plateau, which is a really big chunk of India and the Middle East, or not India, Asia and the Middle East. So he probably had a lot of influence and a lot of control over the people that lived there, which is kind of a big deal. So
then Muslim Akbar the Great took over, and he was tolerant of the Hindus, which was a new thing for the Muslims. He won their support. And he also let them have government jobs, which the previous Muslim rulers wouldn't let them have. And he made Hindu princes his ruling partners, like the governors of each state. And he ended the tax on non-Muslim people. And he also promoted religious harmony by marrying a Hindu woman. And then the next one is this orange one. It's Akbar the Great's son, Nur Jahan, was recognized as the most powerful Hindu woman until the 20th century. And so Akbar the Great's son was a weak ruler. And so when he married her, she kind of just took over the government for him. And she just ran the whole government while he just kind of stood off to the side and was more of a figure. And then the next one is this green one. Kind of easy, is Shah Jahan, Akbar's grandson, built the Taj Mahal. And he built this as a tomb for his wife, Mumtaz Mahal. And he wanted to build one for himself, but he ran out of time when his son usurped him and imprisoned him until he died.
So, for our questions that we were answering, there was two. The first one was, what impact did the Delhi Sultanate have on India? And so they impacted they influenced the people in India because they gave them their Muslim traditions. Many people migrated to India during this time as soldiers, and trade between India and Muslims increased greatly. During the Mongol raids, many people fled to India, and these were mostly scholars, and this gave India their architecture and scholars.
So then, the second question was was an inquiry about how the Muslims and the Hindu cultures affected each other, and how they adopted some of their the other one's cultures. And so I think when it mentioned that Islam started to take some of the customs from the Hindu culture and the caste system, I think they started to compromise. There's 5 pillars of Islam. I don't know if you guys know about that or not. There's 5 pillars of Islam.
It's the first group.
which it didn't. The 5 pillars of Islam, and then like there's one of them is the pilgrimage. Sorry, I'm stealing your thunder. But one of them is the pilgrimage, and if you can't go or you have a sickness, or you don't have the money, then you're exempted from that. So I think that's sort of what they meant, is that they started to, if you don't have the ability to do this, you don't have to, rather than some of those more strict religions saying even if you can't, you have to. So I think that's what they meant. And then in the marriage customs, I think that speaks for itself and how it worked, but they sort of probably, in more than that, probably just overall customs period, and how outgoing they were, or maybe not outgoing, but just how out there and extravagant they were, because I heard about the Hindu festivals, they were kind of really extravagant and rich and colorful. And then the Islam celebrations were kind of more conservative and reserved and sort of just intimate, I guess. So that's kind of how they affected each other in that. So, any questions? Sweet.
Catch it up?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you gonna give